Hello, dear friends. I want to ask you a simple but powerful question. What if the things you keep are the very things that are holding you back from feeling truly alive? I'm not just talking about clutter in your home. I'm talking about the quiet emotional weight we carry with us into our later years. After 60, many of us have more than enough stuff, but less peace, more memories, but fewer moments of real joy. And today, we're going to change that. In this video, I'll show you the 12 things seniors let go of to reclaim their freedom, their health, and their happiness. These aren't just tips, they're emotional turning points. And I promise, by the end of this video, you will feel lighter, clearer, and more in control. So, take a deep breath and stay with me. Because sometimes letting go is the most powerful thing you can do. Now, you might be thinking, oh, I get it. This is one of those videos that tells me to clean out my closet or throw away old receipts. And sure, we will talk about a few physical things you no longer need, but if that's all this was about, I wouldn't waste your time. Because here's the truth no one tells you. The most dangerous clutter we carry after 60 isn't in our homes, it's in our minds and in our hearts. It's the fear of becoming irrelevant, the guilt over past mistakes, the what-ifs that echo louder the older we get. These invisible weights, the ones no one sees, they shape how we sleep, how we eat, how we feel when we open our eyes in the morning. So, if you came here expecting another list of throw away these 10 things, stay with me. Because what we're really doing today is clearing space for joy. Let's start with something I call the storage box of someday. You know the one I mean. That box in the attic or in the back of the closet, filled with supplies from a hobby you never quite got around to. Maybe it's yarn for a blanket you were going to crochet. Maybe it's tools for a project you meant to finish 5 years ago, or clothes you were saving for when you lose the weight. We all have these boxes. They whisper, someday. But here's the hard truth. Someday isn't coming. And holding on to these items is like keeping unpaid emotional debt. Every time you walk past that shelf or open that drawer, it quietly tells your brain, you didn't follow through. And that creates guilt, even if you don't realize it. I had a neighbor, Linda, who kept 3 bins of art supplies in her garage for over a decade. She hadn't painted since her husband passed. She told me, I'm keeping them in case I ever feel inspired again. One day, she donated them to a local school. The next morning, she told me she'd slept better than she had in years. Because sometimes, letting go isn't quitting. It's accepting who you are now, not who you used to be. So, open that box. Hold each item and ask yourself, is this pulling me forward or keeping me stuck? The next thing to let go of, just in case thinking. 3 of the most expensive words in the English language, not in dollars, but in mental rent. We save a second toaster just in case the first one breaks. We keep old keys, chargers, mismatched containers, just in case. But here's the truth. What we're really storing isn't objects, it's anxiety. This kind of thinking was useful once. Many of us grew up in times when waste was not an option, when reusing and saving was a form of survival. But now, that same instinct is stealing space, time, and peace. I once asked a friend why she had 4 sets of measuring cups. She shrugged and said, you never know, but in 20 years, she'd never used more than one. Just in case becomes just in chaos. So here's a question. If something breaks tomorrow, can you replace it in under 24 hours? If yes, you don't need to keep it. Letting go of these items doesn't mean you're unprepared. It means you've chosen clarity over clutter, trust over fear, and trust me, that kind of peace, it's worth far more than an extra can opener. Here's something no one warns you about. You can outgrow a role, but still wear its weight. Mother, provider, fixer, caretaker, organizer of every holiday meal, peacemaker at every family gathering. These roles shaped us, gave us purpose, and for years they were everything. But sometimes the hardest clutter to release is identity clutter. I once spoke to a woman in her 60s who confessed, "My kids are grown, they have their own families, but I still feel like I have to solve their problems before I sleep at night. That's not love, that's habit, and it's exhausting." You're allowed to retire from the roles that no longer serve you, not because you're giving up on others, but because you're finally showing up for yourself. If you've spent decades being someone else's rock, maybe now it's time to be your own. So today, take a moment and ask, which parts of me am I still performing? Out of habit? Out of guilt? Out of fear that if I stop, I won't matter? Letting go of outdated roles isn't selfish, it's sacred. It's the start of living not just as someone's something, but as fully yourself. Let's talk about something sneaky. The guilt of unfinished things, the half-read books, the cross-stitch project you started in 1998, the online course bookmarked but never opened, the garden plan that's still a plan. Somewhere deep inside, there's a little voice that says, "You started it, you should finish it." But here's what I've learned. Life isn't a checklist. You're not a failure because you lost interest. You're not lazy because you changed your mind. You're human, and humans evolve. Holding on to unfinished projects isn't about the projects. It's about holding on to the illusion that productivity equals worth. I once heard a beautiful quote, "Abandoning what no longer excites you isn't quitting. It's choosing joy." So instead of forcing yourself to finish something that drains you, give yourself permission to stop, to let it go, or to pass it on. Because here's the truth. You don't owe completion to objects. You owe peace to yourself. Let's open the closet and be honest. How many pieces of clothing are you keeping for a version of yourself that no longer exists? That dress you wore in your 40s and might fit into again someday. The suit you haven't touched since retirement. The shoes that pinch but looked too expensive to give away. We tell ourselves we're being practical, but really? We're grieving the body we used to have, the life we used to live, and every time you pass by those clothes, something deep inside you whispers, "You're not who you used to be." That's not motivation, that's self-punishment. Here's the reframe. What if your closet celebrated who you are today, not who you were or hope to be? What if every item on that hanger said, "This fits, this flatters, this makes me feel strong, beautiful, and like myself, right now"? Because aging isn't loss, it's refinement. Let your wardrobe reflect that. This one might surprise you. Let go of the gifts you've kept out of guilt. That decorative plate from a cousin you don't even talk to anymore. The sweater you never wear, but feel bad giving away because it was thoughtful. The candle set from Christmas 2004, still unopened. We keep these things because we're afraid of what it says about us if we let them go. Afraid that we'll seem ungrateful, disrespectful, cold. But here's what I want you to hear. A gift is a gesture, not a contract. Once something is given to you, you are not obligated to carry it forever, especially if it doesn't bring joy, usefulness, or beauty to your life. Holding on to unwanted gifts out of guilt is like keeping emotional IOUs that you never signed. And the truth is, the person who gave it probably doesn't even remember. So go ahead, thank the object, appreciate the intention, and let it go. Because your home and your heart deserve to be filled with things that serve you, not just someone else's expectations. Here's something most of us were taught, silently but powerfully. Rest is a reward, something you get only after you've been productive. And so, even after retirement, even after decades of hard work, raising families, showing up for everyone, We still feel guilty sitting down in the middle of the day. We ask ourselves, did I do enough today to deserve this nap, this moment, this peace? But here's the truth. Rest isn't a prize. It's a right. You don't have to earn a quiet afternoon, or a slow morning, or the deep sigh that comes from simply doing nothing for a while. You've already earned it with every year you've lived, every mountain you've climbed, every person you've carried, helped, loved, or healed. I once met a man in his 70s who told me, "I feel lazy if I take a nap, even though I worked 40 years without a break." I looked him in the eye and said, "You're not lazy, you're free. And freedom means choosing peace without permission. So go ahead, sit, breathe, nap, wander. Your rest is not a debt, it's a birthright, and it's time you claimed it. This one goes deeper than anything physical. Let go of the fear of being forgotten. After 60, something shifts, friends move, loved ones get busy, calls come less often, invitations slow down, and in the quiet moments, between errands, between visits, the fear creeps in. What if they move on without me? What if I'm no longer part of the story? It's a fear few talk about, but many feel, and it can be paralyzing. But here's something I want you to hold close. Being remembered has nothing to do with how loud you are in others' lives, and everything to do with how deeply you've lived in your own. You've already made your mark in ways you'll never fully see. In the way your child makes tea the way you did, in the neighbor who remembers your kindness every time they walk past your old fence, in the laugh lines on your friend's face that you helped carve. You are not disappearing, you're echoing. And the more you release the fear of being forgotten, the more you'll realize you've already become unforgettable. Let's talk about a fantasy that quietly becomes a burden. One day, I'll travel. The postcards on the fridge, the bucket list in the drawer, the dream of Paris or Tuscany or the Grand Canyon. Someday. And maybe that day will come. But for many, the years go by. Plans get delayed, health changes, life shifts. And the dream becomes a shadow, not a source of hope, but of guilt. Why didn't I go? Did I waste my life staying put? But here's what I want you to hear. You don't need a passport to feel wonder. You don't need a plane ticket to feel alive. I once met a woman named June. She never left her hometown, but she knew the name of every bird in her backyard. She knew when the trees would bloom. She knew how the breeze changed before the rain. And when I asked her if she ever regretted not traveling, she smiled and said, "Why would I? I've been present. That's rarer than going far." Let go of the idea that travel defines a life well lived. Sometimes the most beautiful journey is the one you take back to yourself. Let's talk about the attic, or the basement, or that guest room filled with boxes labeled for the kids, the wedding china, the yearbooks, the doll collection, the baby clothes. We hold on to them like time capsules, thinking, someday they'll want this. But here's what most of us are afraid to admit. They probably don't. And that's not because they're ungrateful. It's because they live in a different world, smaller apartments, digital memories, minimalist values. I once heard a woman say, "I saved my mother's dining set for 15 years. My daughter finally told me she eats on the couch." Oof. But also, freedom. Because here's what you're really giving them when you let go. You're not passing down things. You're passing down peace. You're saying, "I love you enough not to leave you with 26 boxes of decisions." So ask them. Offer. Then release. Don't turn your home into a museum for people who've already moved on. You deserve space. They deserve clarity. And love stays, even when the stuff doesn't. Here's something many won't admit out loud. The news isn't keeping us informed, it's keeping us afraid. You turn on the TV for just a few minutes, and suddenly you're overwhelmed with headlines, warnings, arguments, anger. You want to stay up to date, but instead you feel worn down. I'm not saying to ignore what's happening in the world. I'm saying Protect your energy, because the 24/7 news cycle, it's not designed to inform you. It's designed to keep your attention by keeping you anxious. I had a friend in his 70s who watched the news all day long. He said, "I feel like the world's on fire." I asked him to take 1 week off, just one. He read books, took walks, called friends. By the end of the week, he looked 5 years younger. So here's a challenge. Choose one time a day to check in, then turn it off. Don't let the noise of the world drown out the quiet of your own mind. You deserve peace, not panic. Presence, not paralysis. And finally, let go of the belief that it's too late. Too late to start over. Too late to change directions. Too late to feel something new. This belief? It's a quiet thief. It doesn't take your money. It takes your momentum. I've met people who discovered painting at 73, fell in love again at 80, moved to a new city at 67 and said, "Why didn't I do this sooner?" The truth is, there is no deadline on becoming who you were meant to be. If your heart still beats, if you still wake up with thoughts, hopes, aches, longings, then it's not too late, not even close. You are not behind. You are becoming, and the most beautiful chapters. Sometimes they're the ones we almost didn't write until we finally gave ourselves permission to pick up the pen. So there you have it, 12 things you can finally let go of to make space for everything that truly matters. And remember, letting go isn't loss, it's liberation. You're not just clearing shelves or drawers, you're clearing doubt, guilt, noise, the weight of roles and rules you never needed in the first place. What you're creating is more powerful than any object you give away. Clarity, confidence, and the kind of peace that only comes when you finally say, "This is who I am now, and that is enough." If this video spoke to you, I'd love to hear what you're letting go of. Drop a comment below and share your moment of release. You never know who you might inspire, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. This community is growing every day, and I'd be honored to walk this path with you, because your best years, they're not behind you. They're the ones you live with intention, starting now. Thanks for spending this time with me. Until next time, take care of your space, take care of your mind, and most of all, take care of you.